Hi everyone. You always probably realize that when I start these, not only do I tell you that I'm going to keep it short and then, of course, increase it by 50 seconds, but I'm also looking at all the numbers and the gadgets to make sure that I'm in the right place. That is, the camera's in the right place. Okay, let me just plunge into this. This is the second video about Kant, and what I did in the first one is I basically lined up the um, phases um, of the cave, and we said there's four, and I just went through that, so I won't do it again. But the point of this sequence of videos is to show you, as I've been saying, that there's a tremendous unity in the history of Western philosophy, and I'll lecture on that a little bit down the road. Okay, as a kind of conclusion to the class. Okay, so what I want to do now is talk about the Kant text, and this is a very important text. In part because it's simple. Kant has the reputation of being just incredibly difficult, and I could talk to you for 2 hours about that, but I'm not going to. I think that there are difficult parts of Kant, as there are really difficult parts of philosophy. However, at its heart, it's not so difficult to understand. And when I say it, I mean both philosophy and Kant. And I guess in third place, this short essay. Okay, what Kant is saying here is that enlightenment, in his sense of the word, which I'm going to explain in 1 second, is essential to the human condition, point number one. And point number two, it's a measure of humanity's maturity and seriousness to move from the unenlightened condition to the enlightened condition. The third little grabber here, and that is one needs to dare to do this. The motto of the Enlightenment, as Kant understood it, is dare to know. Okay, now, I mean, basically, put in simple terms, what Kant is doing is he's revisiting the cave situation. And of course, between 400 BC and the 18th century, there are innumerable changes. But once again, I'm saying that there's this core similarity of thought, which is very important. And so what Kant is basically saying is this, that there is a level in human life, very much like the bottom of the cave, where people are organized according to prejudice, convention, and ignorance. Now, notice these terms, prejudice, convention, and ignorance, are different kinds of things. They're linked by being out of touch with reality. Okay, just as the cave dwellers are out of touch with reality. And what Kant is saying is that in order to have a rewarding life, one needs, first of all, to know that you don't know, and to resist and transcend the prejudices, the conventions, and what he calls at a certain moment laziness. So that's one similarity between Kant and Plato. That is, there's a moral imperative to transcend convention and ignorance and all that entails. Okay, point number one. Point number two is that this process is what Kant considers the process of, and see, he has two different ways of saying it. The number one is like Plato, becoming enlightened. Okay, notice it's not an accident that both Plato and Kant use the sun as a metaphor for the way the mind works. Okay, so what Kant is saying here is that there is a progress or process for overcoming the convention and moving towards the truth. Now, in this little short essay, he doesn't explain that very much. I'm going to talk to you about that in 1 second. Okay, now the third level in the cave is the one that, as I've said before, I always kind of skip over because it's, it's kind of scientific and technical and it's a little bit difficult. And as I also have promised, I will talk about it. I'm going to do a video just on that. Okay, now the point that I want to make here is that both in this essay and in general, Kant does not talk so very much about this. That is to say, this whole question of what is what are these truths becomes very problematic for Kant. Okay, and instead of saying that there are, truths, there is a truth one, a truth two, a truth three, and a truth four. Kant substitutes the idea of searching for the truth. Okay, so there's a sort of transposition in Kant that is